Majority of real estate agents don't even own real estate. That is mind-boggling. If you can buy something for cheaper than it costs to make, you'll always be in a good spot.
Never seen me face to face. We just did it over the phone off a random cold call lead. And I was like, holy cow, this is a lot of money that we were able to make out of thin air.
I'm just not this fountain of money right now. I have to raise capital. And what I've been really good at is understanding what people want for their money.
One flip, how long will it take you and your team to flip it and then sell it? What's up, you guys? I have a very special guest today. Good friend of mine. Name is Ethan Montang. We actually met in Future Flipper, now known as Wealthy Investor. We met in Las Vegas at Ryan Panetta's convention where he was teaching people about real estate. And I actually remember our very first encounter where I saw Ethan. He had a name tag, but it said, I have 21 homes under contract. Help me find a cash buyer and I'll pay you. And that made him stand out. I met him. His energy is super contagious. Can't wait to share his story. He's an Army brat. He's been all over the world and used to live in Germany. And he actually recently moved to Iowa, and he is flipping apartment buildings. He used to flip homes, and now he flips apartment buildings. He has 81 doors right now. Can't wait to share his story. I do virtual wholesaling, and I can't wait to get into actually doing what he does when I move back stateside. So what's up, Ethan? Thanks for being on the show, man. How are you?
Not too bad, man. Thank you for that introduction. It made me feel really good, dude. I appreciate that.
How are things over where you're at now? I see in your background too, Young Pro. What does that mean?
Yeah, so Young Pro is cut out the G a little bit. But I started studying real estate when I was 21, and at that point, and started going to your local RIAs and your real estate meetups and your free conferences before I started, investing in my education. But I very quickly realized that I was extremely young for this game, and I also looked very young. I'd like to say I don't look 31 right now, but I am. But at 21, I definitely look like a child. So I just decided to kind of like take that as my power. And if somebody had only interacted with me through email, or the Young Pro and hadn't got to see me yet, that when they saw me for the first time, they at least I was upfront about being young and a professional. So I came up with Young Pro, and I have ran with that for the past decade. So
that's awesome. That's a dope name. Cool to know what that means now. That's awesome. Congrats on that. And I see you're in your new studio. So you told me offline that you bought that commercial building and it's now your work spot.
Yep. So I'm about 4 minutes from downtown Des Moines. I bought this commercial building. It is one of the craziest multi-use buildings I've ever bought. It has a 2-bedroom apartment. It has an El Salvadorian restaurant. It has 5,700 square feet of warehouse, and it has like another 5,000 square feet of that totals 11 different office spaces. And me and my team take up 3 of them. And then we have a music producer that we rent out 1 to, and then the other 7 offices are taken up by my business partner and his retail company.
That is so awesome. And you said there's an El Salvadorian restaurant there too?
Yeah, when we bought the building, that was the only thing paying rent.
Oh, wow. Wait, you guys are running it, or it's just they're one of the tenants there?
They're one of the tenants there, yeah. So the owner owns the restaurant itself. We just happen to own the real estate that the restaurant is in.
Gotcha. Wow, that's really unique. I've never had that kind of food. I know. How is that kind of food?
Oh, amazing, dude. I might be putting on some weight actually, but they're just right over there.
Is it like Mexican food or Spanish food?
Yeah, it's like Mexican food, but I want to be culturally appropriate. So
okay.
It says El Salvadorian outside, not Mexican. So.
Okay. That's cool. We'll definitely talk about all your travel experiences too, because I love to travel too, man. But like, how did you even get into like flipping real estate? Because that's how we initially met. We were flipping real estate. That's when I was flipping real estate with my partner as well. Yeah. How did you get into that? And then how did you get into flipping apartments now?
Totally. So I kind of stumbled into flipping houses. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad at like 21, which is really from 21 to 23. All I did was consume content, try to increase my credit, and save up money so that 23 I could buy my first rental. Well, I quickly realized when I bought my first rental, everyone thinks, oh, you buy a rental, you're rich. It's like, no. $300 to $400 in cash flow does not make you rich a month. You know what I mean? So I needed a way to generate more income outside of my 9 to 5 and outside of this, single family rental. And the idea that I came was to do a live-in house hack, a live-in flip. So I went from the single family into a duplex because I did an owner-occupied loan. Still didn't have the ability to flip yet, but knew it was in the horizon. And then after that duplex, so I was sitting at 3 units. And I was doing only one deal a year. First year I did one deal. Second year I did another, the duplex. And then the start of the third year is when I got my first flip, rented out the other units, did this flip, and I was supposed to make like 40K. Ended up making like 21.
Wow. And how old were you at the time with your first flip?
25, 26.
Wow. Was that the most money you've ever made? Like on one, I guess.
On one transaction, yeah, by far. Yeah, I'd never seen a check with, $21,000 on it. And I split it with my parents because we were like, the first deal I did buy with them, 50-50. We were only making $400-ish, in cash flow, blah, blah, blah. They were like, we're not doing another deal. That's not going to. So I did the second deal all by myself, and the duplex went really well. So that kind of gained their confidence. And then we did the third deal together again.
Wow, at 25, you were doing this. That is amazing, bro. How young did you start at 25, or did you start even younger than that? Like, does your family have
No, so that's 25 was my first flip. Now I had the duplex and the single family rental, but I didn't really remodel those too much or anything. Yeah.
So the first two were just rentals. You didn't flip them or anything. You just bought them.
Correct. Just moved in. Yeah. Did house hacks, moved in, rented out the other rooms to a friend, then moved again to the duplex and just repeated the process.
And what were you doing before real estate, Ethan?
I was a retail manager for like a retail store, just a general manager, nothing to do with real estate at all.
So you kind of like stumbled into real estate. It wasn't like, oh, I want to be a flipper, or I want to get into real estate. It's more you read all these books, and then that's what educated you into, hey, let's build a rental portfolio, let's start getting cash flow. And then you stumbled into a flip. And then when you made that amount of money, that's what got the doors open for you for, hey,
I can make these chunks. I can simultaneously build wealth, like wealth that's built through, ownership and equity. But flipping houses is just a job. And wholesaling, a lot of the people don't like to separate that, or they don't like that, but that's the fact of the matter. If I'm flipping a house, that's a job, and that's not going to build me wealth. But what I did realize is I could take the profits from the job of flipping houses and then go buy more rental properties to continue building that wealth. And that's just all I've done this whole time, is cycle that same system, and then ended up moving out of flipping the single family houses to get larger margins, to start flipping, smaller apartment buildings, to then still dump back into the buy and hold.
Main business, your main asset. So like wholesaling and flipping is a good cash business, but you're kind of working in the business a lot of the time. But when you get your cash, you put into your cash producing assets or buy more. Essentially.
Correct.
And a lot of people don't even know what flipping is or wholesaling. For people that have never heard of that before, like, what is flipping? Because I do wholesaling, so to let people know what wholesaling is, I find the contracts I find the properties that are off market, and we get it at a deep discount, and then we get the contract, we get the rights to the property, and then we assign it to a cash buyer or a flipper like Ethan, and then Ethan does the flipping. But can you explain to people like what exactly is flipping and how hard is it, and what are the benefits and all that jazz?
Yeah, I'll try to give something like that. So I never went through wholesalers. I got nothing against wholesalers, but I realized quickly that if I could do the wholesaler's job, then I would just have larger margins in my deals. So I've always sourced my deals. A couple have come from wholesalers now that I've been doing this for 8 years, but a majority of my deals I sourced myself. As far as the process, like you said, I will buy an extremely distressed property. There's a lot of things going on in the economy where people are mad at like wholesalers and flippers for like messing up or jacking up house prices. Like the houses that I buy, nobody would want to live in. Like, thank goodness I'm coming to take care of this mess for the entire neighborhood. So you get it at a discount, and you put a concept together, because that's really all you can do. You make your scope of work and you hope it goes as close to that as possible. And I have learned that's very hard. But as I grow and get better and I have my team, I make more educated decisions, and it's been a bit better. But I'll come in, and most of my projects have averaged between like 50K to 70K remodels. We do a bit more extensive. And I don't do low level flips. I'm very proud of my product and the business partner I have, Shannon. He is a phenomenal artist. What he can do with his hands and construction is just amazing.
Wow.
So we teamed up and, we don't use laminate countertops. We don't use cheap LV like T flooring. We really come to the table with nice stuff, brand new appliances, brand new cabinets for the most time. Like we don't really just paint over cabinets. Really granite countertops. We're happy about that product, which requires just more money up front to be able to do that level of remodel.
And so you said you put about 50 to 70K worth of rehab into the property to really leave your signature touch. How much do you usually profit at the end and when you put on the market and sell it or sell it to someone else?
Yeah, great question. With the single families, I'd say my average, I'd love to be like, 50, 60, 70, I'm doubling my money. That's just not been the case. Maybe it's, my fault for not having better budgets or maybe not getting a deep enough discount. But I normally hit that $30,000 to $40,000 range. A few times it's, touched underneath that and I've only made 20 or something, and other times one time I made like 89K on a flip. So
Wow.
But I think I'm comfortable to say that my average is normally between 30 to 40,000.
Gotcha. And then what's the time span on that? Because when you get it under contract and you get it and then actually finish it and then sell it, how long are you looking at as far as
Totally. My best year, a couple years now, I've actually put this out on social media that my goal was to flip 10 houses in a calendar year. I have yet to be able to perform that, which has kind of been a stab in the heart, but I'm restructuring and strategizing how to do that better to be able to hold that volume. Like I have to be able to have the team and the bandwidth to be able to control that volume of flipping. So my best year, I've done 6 flips in 1 year.
Wow, that's a lot of flips. A lot of flips though. But like one flip, how long will it take you and your team to flip it and then sell it?
About 3 months.
3 months. That's pretty fast. That's actually really
I have never had one of my flip projects be on market without an accepted pending offer for more than a week.
Wow. So it moves pretty fast then.
Yeah, they move.
Markets you're at too.
And I'm in that price point too. Like one of these, 2 of single families that I flipped last year, we bought both of them for $42,000 each. 42 here, 42 here, and the sale price on those, all done. I mean, one had a brand new 2-car garage that we built from scratch. It was one's 165,000, I think 185,000. So when you're talking about fully a brand new house, like where can you go, in the United States to get a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with a garage that has fully done, for $180,000. Like it's just not. It's so hard to do unless you're in the Midwest.
Yeah. And talking about markets, what markets are you in Iowa and Kansas?
Yep. So I have initially my first 3 properties that I brought up, my single family, my duplex, and my first flip. Those were all in Ames, Iowa. I liquidated those and I bought 15 units in Boone, Iowa, which is about 15 minutes away. Much smaller. Excuse me. Yes, much smaller town than Ames, but it had higher cash on cash, and that's what I needed to be able to quit my job.
What does that mean for people that don't know that?
Oh, great, yeah. So cash on cash is an equation. A lot of people focus on ROI. That's not the equation that I am most intimate with. It's not one that benefits me as much as cash on cash. So cash on cash is where you take your cash flow divided by your initial investment, and that will give you a percentage. And so when I realized that I could get a higher cash on cash return going to smaller markets, which would then show that I have higher cash flow, that would get me quicker to being able to quit my day job as that retail manager. And I ended up doing that. I think 5 or 6 years ago, I quit my job.
Wow. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
You were 26 then, because you started at 25. So
yeah, 26 is when I quit my job. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I like to tell people, like, when you're not on your purpose or your passion or what you're aligned to do, you really feel it inside of you, especially for people that want to get out of their 9 to 5 and, become their own boss. And it's amazing seeing that, you put in the sweat equity. It took you a year, but you finally were able to get out of it. Now you have a whole team. You have multiple properties. And I remember we spoke and you said in one deal, you made over 100K. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy situation, and I'm glad you brought that up, because this is, everybody, I think it's easy for people to be like, oh, that was just one special deal, or like, like you just got lucky, and there is no luck here. Like I spent out, and like you said, like a lot of people say they want to be their own boss or control their own schedule, but like the fact of the matter is, I don't have days off, or don't, I work 12-hour days unless I'm traveling the world. Then, like, don't have my team's cool with it. They don't bother me. But in order to kind of get where I've got, like, man, I stay up way late and bust my ass to kind of get here. So with that being said, this deal came along, which is talking again, the power of letting people know what you do, that therefore then allows the opportunity for things to flood your way. So before I even started trying to borrow capital from anybody else but my parents or anything else, like everybody knew I was into real estate and that this is what I was doing. And our church had this building that was 12,000 square feet. It was completely vacant. It used to be a woman's shelter, and they needed it gone. They wanted $50,000 for it, and they didn't know what to do with it. And I was like, look, I will give you $2,500 down. We're going to do a seller finance, right? We're going to do 0% interest. We're only going to do biannual payments. So every 6 months, I'll owe you another $2,500, but it'll go right against principal. Now, in this building, there was like 120 some odd windows or whatever. And I'd read Grant Cardone's 10X book. And there was like a thing in there that was like, if you can buy something for cheaper than it costs to make, you'll always be in a good spot. And so when I ran the numbers at, $400 a window with brand new windows at 120 windows, it was like $47,000 in windows alone.
For windows alone.
Yeah, just the windows alone. And this is a 12,000 square foot beautiful brick building. So I was like, okay, I'm good. And it took me about 8 or 10 months. I ended up cleaning it out, had to gut one room, but didn't do any remodeling. Just did a wholesale. I think that's the correct
What
term.
is a wholesale for people that don't know that?
So a wholesale is actually, instead of a wholesale where you sell the contract, a wholesale is where you actually close on the property and you do you pick it up, right? Like if the property's trashed, you empty out all the trash and you just make it more appealing for when investors walk through. Maybe throw up some paint, but it's really like anything over $1,000, that's not a wholesale anymore. Like this is more just sweat equity, get in there, clean it out, make it nice.
Okay, so it's like it's not even like putting lipstick on. It's like you're just really doing the bare minimum to clean it and then sell it to an investor.
Correct. So
Gotcha.
In that time, I made a couple different pitch decks, a couple different exit strategies. And this was going to be the first time I had to go and speak in front of people and pitch this deal. So I think I had quit in this, I had quit my job. So by that time I started to do this. Yeah, I'd quit my job. I had like 15 units, but had this other building as well. And I went to my local RIA, and for everybody listening, you can, whatever city you're in, you can just Google REIA, Real Estate Investors Association, and their free meetups. So I went to that meetup and I stood up, as a young lad, and I said, hey, I've got this property. Here's my ideas for it. And then I actually also threw it on the MLS because I'd closed on it, so I could do that. And I didn't make 100,000. I made 99,900.
That's $100K, $100.
So I bought it for 50K and I sold it for 149,900.
Wow, that's amazing,
bro. Nothing to it besides cleaning it out.
That just teaches people listening to this or watching right now, to put yourself out there. Like you said, you will attract what you are wanting or you need. Like when you said, you told people that you buy real estate and flip it at your church and they had an opportunity for you. You got the building and then you went to a RIA and then you put yourself out there again. Then you got your buyer. And wow, it's amazing, man. Just the risk you took and the things you leveraged just to get that deal done. And pretty much it's $100K, $100 shot. Yeah. Wow, bro. Congrats. What did you spend all that money on? Because you said was that like the most amount of money you've ever seen in your life in one
That,
day?
oh my gosh, dude. And after and when that happened, I'd actually just went through like when the property sold, I had just gone through like a nasty breakup with a girl that, I thought I was gonna, marry, and we had dated for like 4 years. So now that situation happened, and like I felt some sort of way about the breakup, and she had said this thing like, I know you're gonna make it, but I don't know when, type shit. And now I'm looking at a check with Young Pro for $99,900, and I had a very big boy decision to make. I could go be wild and be crazy and live a life that a lot of people don't have that access to in that moment. But I decided to do a 1031 tax exchange. I didn't touch any of it.
Wow.
And I bought a 6-unit apartment in Ankeny, Iowa, which was fully stabilized. And that was that's probably the second or third best building I still have in my portfolio. Phenomenal building. But that was a very hard, at 26, 27, going through heartbreak and wanting to just kind of disappear and, prove people wrong and throw up the birds. Like I didn't do that. I stuck it to myself, and I bought another building, and I avoided capital gains by doing that. That was the other part of that, is which was huge.
Capital gains. Yeah, like, so doing a 1031, you avoid paying taxes and because you bought another property with the money. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a good tax loophole, if you want to put it that way. If the IRS is watching and we're not taxed.
It's all legal. Check out my docs. But you used a word there a couple times ago that said leverage, and I just kind of want to go through that part, right? I took $2,500 to secure this property that was for $50K. So they lent me the other $47,500. Well, another 6 months went by, and I had to put that other $2,500 down right towards principal. Therefore, they were lending me, the other $45,000. But I took $5,000, bought a vacant building that was producing no money, sold it. That made me $99,900, and then I put that amount. So I leveraged $5K into $99,000, and then took that $99,000 and put it into a $460,000 sixplex that was cash flowing and was going to draw appreciation and was going to give me tax deductions and was going to give me principal pay down. So just to show that, like, step by step, that you can really, take a very little amount of money and create an opportunity, execute on that opportunity, and turning into something beautiful. And those types of deals, those are all out there. Now, that specific one, yeah, sure, whatever. That was a cool deal, but I do cool deals all the time. I mean, you do cool deals all the time, so like, they're out there. You just got to find them.
I like what you said there. You created an opportunity. A lot of people think that opportunities just drop right in front of you, but it's actually not like that. In order to be successful, you have to be prepared, and you have to seek the opportunity to become successful. And you were already prepared, and you sought that opportunity, and you executed it. You put in the sweat equity, and look what you were able to create out of it. That's amazing. And you also said something about, like, the building that you got from your church. You paid them $2,500, and they became the bank, essentially. So it was seller financing.
Correct.
How exactly do you structure a deal like that? Because me personally, I'm actually trying to get more into that, in the wholesale side of things. And I know there's a lot of people that want to get into that kind of side of a deal instead of just being a cash offer. How did you structure that?
Well, I'll tell you what, you invited me out to Prague, and I'm coming in. I really think I'm going to extend my trip. I would be happy to give you a quick rundown of seller financing and how to structure. But just to answer that question, I think everybody's got different talents. I'm extremely unorganized, but what I have been gifted with is being creative, just like you are. You're a creator. You create content, you create deals, right? I've been gifted with being creative, and inside of that is deal structure. And a lot of times people look at deal structure in a single dimension. It's black or white. It's a $400,000 purchase price, or it's on the MLS. I've seller financed deals that were on the MLS. This warehouse that I'm in right now was on the MLS. They wanted a normal cash buy, but the way I structured it and was able to educate the seller, and all those things kind of combined, and the seller was helpful with me, and he understood my needs, and all those things really allowed us to, ended up taking a deal that was on market and seller financing it. But let's remove the Zillow, and on MLS, because it is much more difficult. But basically, when you go to a bank, all those terms are set. You know, they have your amortization years, they have your interest rate, they have the 5% or 20% down if it's an investment property. All these things they have set. Like, you have no negotiation power. So when I go and I am in direct to seller, it is extremely important for me to understand my seller's needs and incentives. The only way that this is going to work is to make them happy. Like, I've never bought a house that somebody didn't want to sell me, right? Like, that's not how this game goes. They have an issue, and I'm here to solve that issue for them. I want to know what those needs are, and then you got to let me do my thing on the back. So if somebody, is more concerned about the purchase price, and that they need a certain amount of income coming in a month, well, then I know that that's directly related to cash flow. Like, I have to be able, if they're the bank and I'm paying them interest, right? The amount of interest that I'm paying then needs to cover the amount of cash flow, the payment they wanted coming in. But maybe they don't care. Maybe that's not their incentives. Maybe they want to move to Florida and buy a Mercedes for their wife, and they need $50,000. So they don't actually care about the purchase price, or they don't care about the monthly payments. They need $50K right now, and you can kind of set up the rest. And so being able to have the resources and in your tool belt to understand that you have multiple dimensions of how you can structure a deal, or different things you can tweak to ensure you give your seller what they need, but also so that it's profitable for you on your side, is a rare skill I've come to encounter. And I don't know if that's just one of my gifts, or if people haven't put in enough time to practice analyzing and being able to almost manipulate those numbers, not in a bad sense. I think that has a bad word sometimes, but no, it's really just like, well, I have to be able to manipulate this deal because you gave me 2 criteria that I have to meet. So in order to meet those 2 criteria for the seller, I have to manipulate the rest of the deal so it can now be profitable for me as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to help them, and now we're both in the shithole.
Yeah, because you couldn't just pay $50,000 cash at the time, but you found a way to have them finance it, and they would still get what they want. It's just in a long time.
Yeah.
Wow, and I've learned too in real estate, especially within wholesaling, especially virtual wholesaling for Prague. It's even harder because I can't go in person and meet someone and build a relationship. They see you face to face, because I think a lot better when I'm actually there. But virtual wholesaling is even hard, or like, because I'm not physically there, but to build that relationship over time, it really is a relationship-based business, I feel, in real estate. Look at like realtors. It's the same thing. It's all relationship-based. Realtors, they all essentially do the same thing, but what it is each realtor is a specific brand, and they have to build a relationship with the people they're going to list their home or help them buy a home, because they want to have to work with them. They want to work with those people. So that's what I've learned.
Have you ever been a real estate agent?
Yeah, I was actually licensed by Remax.
Okay, I thought so. I thought so. You were military. You were a real estate agent and a real estate investor.
Yeah. So when I got out of active duty, what was it, 2 years ago now? Yeah, 2 years. Well, time flies. I moved back stateside, and I already knew I wanted to get into real estate of some sort, but I knew there were so many different avenues of real estate. And the only thing I knew was a real estate agent, because my mom's mom was a real estate agent, and they had a nice house, they had a nice car and all this stuff, or they appeared to. I didn't realize at the time that a lot of real estate agents, they appeared to be wealthy, but they're not actually wealthy. And I was
dude, if a lot of the majority of real estate agents don't even own real estate. That is mind-boggling to me.
Yep. It's great. That's what I was like. It made no sense to me because I didn't really know much about real estate, but at least it opened the doors to me, because I remember when I became a real estate agent, I was so excited, dude. I got my real estate license in California, and then I became an agent. I was at a boutique company at first. It was in Newport Beach, so it was kind of a posh area. So it was more in the luxury end properties, and I didn't like it. It was a different kind of clientele you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And then I went to Remax Top Producers. I love the vibe there, the community, and then the types of people you're talking to. It's not like those more poshy people. But when I saw like people making money, like their check after check, ringing the bell, I looked at them like, how much did they actually make for all that work? It wasn't even a lot of money. It was a super small commission. And I'm like, I remember how busy I was. I was busier than I was in the military, because like every weekend I was showing homes. I was, making calls, driving everywhere. In California, the traffic is so bad. I remember when I was learning too, man, I didn't realize you're supposed to get your your buyer pre-qualified first. I didn't know that. And I showed her all these homes. I drove all these different places. And when we finally found one, we found out she didn't have a qualification for a loan and she couldn't qualify to buy it. And that was the thing. I was like, F this, I'm done being a realtor. And I quit. I was part of that. There's like a fallout rate of realtors, but I was part of that fallout rate. But I'm glad I fell out, because it actually led me to meeting my ex-business partner who taught me about like flipping, JT. That's how I got to
That's what I was about to say. Was that your first meetup? Was that your first real estate paid conference?
Yeah, that was my first. Well, I think when I met you, it might have been, I think that was the first one, because I went again the second time. But yeah, that was my very first real estate meetup for flipping. And I was like, what is a flipper? I didn't know what that is, because my dad did it with his brothers. He still does it. But I didn't really know what that was, because I knew it's still real estate. And then I started getting educated. He taught me a lot. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. You can make a lot of money in flipping. And my dad, they bought a property and they flipped it, but they had like 3 construction teams walk off the property, steal some stuff too. And they spent way more on the rehab than they were supposed to. And it was vacant for like, I think almost a year before they put renters in it. And now he's just holding it. He doesn't want to make the same mistake he made like in his past. I guess they sold 2 properties and lost money on it because they got emotional. They were kept paying the mortgage. They should have just kept it, but they just told to make the payments off. Yeah, that's how I got into flipping, man. And then I actually deployed to Germany because of the Ukraine crisis. I ended up staying out here, bro, because I moved to Prague, started using my GI Bill to help out with the visa, go to school part-time. And then I got into wholesaling. I was like, what the heck is wholesaling? Because I knew what flipping was, but I didn't know there was a middle ground between.
A middle, yeah.
And then when I got into it, I was like, wow, this is a cool thing. Like, you can do this anywhere in the world too. Like, that's crazy. I didn't believe it at first, honestly. But dude, for the first like 4 months, we had deal after deal after deal fall out of escrow, or some random crazy thing happen. And I was about to toss the towel up and say, wow, this doesn't work, man. I was doing like an Amazon FBA at the time. I was like, I'm going to go back to Amazon FBA. But I'm glad I didn't quit, dude. We have a team. We kept going. When we finally closed escrow, our first deal, we made $14,144. And I was like, holy cow, this is a lot of money that we were able to make out of thin air, essentially. Like, never seen me face to face. We just did it over the phone off a random cold call lead. And we got the whole process from A to Z to escrow and sold to a cash buyer. And after that, the proof of concept was there. And dude, we're on our way. We're closing 2 deals next month. We're about to make $50K next month with 2 deals. And we've been in the business for only 6 months now, going into 7. I'm like, dude, it's amazing. I can't wait to get into like what you're doing though. I like flipping apartments.
I'm proud of you, dude. I'm proud of you, man. That's such a cool. And the way you said that, like you made it out of nothing, dude. No, really, you took a piece of paper, right, and turned it into $14K. It's wild. I love this game. I've never really encountered anything that's kept my attention for a decade plus now at this point. And like, no, I love this. Like, I can't fake this smile. I got goosebumps right now.
Likewise, man. And the energy is contagious. I see all these influencers and high-level guys, and all of them have some sort of foothold in real estate. If it's usually as an investor of some sort. Because I looked at them, I look at Grant Cardone or all these guys, Ryan Panetta. I'm like, they're not real estate agents; they're investors. Maybe I know Ryan Panetta started out as an agent too. He had the same experience, but I'm like, yeah, these guys are all investors. They're investing in some capacity. But I learned the majority of the investors that are making a lot of money are either in the development side with land, or what you're doing is getting apartment complexes and then turning into a long-term cash flow for generational wealth. How many doors do you actually have right now, or have you done in total?
Well, doors in total, I've definitely done over 100. That's a great question. I've never been asked that one, but my current portfolio sits at 81 doors. I for a long time was swinging in between the like high 20s and low 40s. And then I liquidated a couple properties, and a year and a half ago, I bought a 57-unit apartment building. It's just one building. There's just 57 units in it, and that obviously like ramped up my whole portfolio. But I was really excited yesterday. So my current portfolio's value is about 5.6 million. Yesterday, I wrote a seller financing offer for a $5 million building. So it's looking like what it took me in about 8 years to build next week I could theoretically double my entire portfolio in
Wow.
a week.
Congratulations,
So keep
Ethan.
my emotions down. I'm supposed to find out today or tomorrow.
You're waiting for that call. Like, I can't sleep.
How great would that be if I saw him call? I'd answer it on the podcast.
Dude, that'd be awesome. We'll go on for 2 hours and we'll keep talking.
But yeah, I structured that. That deal was really causing me some issues yesterday. Kind of at one point, I would just remember putting my hands in my head and I cannot make this deal work, because before I can put in an offer, I have to create the structure inside my head. Then I have to be able to regurgitate that and put it on paper for the seller, right? And since I'm just not this, fountain of money right now, I have to raise capital. And what I've been really good at is not just deal structure and finding good deals, but is understanding what people who have money want for their money, right? Is if you don't understand as a wholesaler, you have to understand your investor side, or how could you capture their attention? Same thing is with raising capital. I have to understand and be intimate with what returns rich people want for their money. And then be able to present that in a way that they understand. And so, I did a couple different structures. I ended up, it's a 10-year, I'm going after a 10-year balloon, and it's a 5 million purchase price with 12% down. That's $600K I got to raise, man. And then not only am I getting lent 4.4 million, right? I got debt service on that. Well, unless I'm going to give out enormous amount of equity for 600K, I've got to pay that investor back that 600K. How do I do all this? Well, the idea that I came up with it being a 10-year balloon, is the first 3 years to be interest-only payments, okay?
Wow.
Even at interest-only payments, this seller is going to $5 million. I give him $600,000. He's loaning me 4.4. At 4.25% interest, with interest only, it's $15K a month I have to pay him with interest only. So my principal is not going down at all.
Wow.
It's staying at the same amount. So I'm going to give him $100,000 or $600,000, and within the first 12 months, he will receive $15K every month, which is another $170,000. So in the first year of me and him working together, he's going to get $770,000 from me.
Wow.
And I had to be able to handle the whole structure of that. And now, if he does accept my offer, I then now need to go out and raise $600,000 and be able to explain how this investor is going to make them back. Had I not done that, removed principal, my payments were, I think, $23,000, which the property, if he accepts the interest only, will generate $160K in cash flow. If I didn't do that, it was only generating, I think, $75,000.
All right.
That ruined the entire deal right there, because there's not enough money to pay back my investor towards and start paying him back, right? If there's only $75K of profit, I still need to get paid.
Yeah.
But if I give this investor $60K, that's a 10% return. Yeah, that's cool. That's great. But I like my investors to be in love with me. So I like to hit that, 12 to 15% returns for my investor. There goes all my profit. Why the heck am I going to stress myself and be the manager of all this deal for no money? That just doesn't make sense.
So just planning that whole structure out, and then even knowing what does my investor want, how do I even get the funding for this? That's a lot of stress that you
it can be. I think, just like you, dude, you own your own business. You got employees. I think that one of the things that entrepreneurs have to be gifted at is problem solving.
Yep.
And if you get overwhelmed or too stressed, not that it is completely natural and it is going to happen, but if you get analysis paralysis and it shuts you down, dude, I've got employees. I don't have the luxury to shut down. They rely on me to pay them and their families, and so I just refuse to let it. Yes, stress is okay. I just refuse to let it shut me down.
Exactly. I've learned too, the people that are the most successful they're the best problem solvers, and they solve the most problems that pay the most too.
Yeah. If you want more money, solve bigger problems.
I think that's what Alex Hormozy says. Yeah, if you want more money,
Yeah.
solve bigger problems. Wow, that's amazing. So, like, are you only doing apartment flips now? Because you were doing single family homes, but it makes more sense now to be in the multifamily space because the amount of time and effort. Like one of my mentors, I actually had him on the podcast last week, Hector Padilla. He does this full time, but he said he only does like 4 deals a year. But from those 4 deals, he's making a lot of money in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And it's like less volume, but it's higher quality.
Higher quality. See, there's something to be said about that. I know I still flip single family houses. I do really want to hit my goal of flipping 10, and it's not necessarily to like say that, oh, I flipped 10 houses. It's more so of like, I want to prove to myself that I have the bandwidth to be able to handle not only my construction company, the construction company that I co-own with Shannon, but be able to handle subs and have the ability to control that kind of volume, right? Because that then proves that my systems are good and they're growing, because I've never been able to do that. So instead of it being like, oh, this 10 houses, no, it's like I want to know and prove to myself that my systems are established and are strong enough to be able to handle that kind of volume.
Definitely, it's the systems and processes and the teams you have in place that are gonna be able to handle all that. That's really, really awesome. That's a good, I think, goal to set as well. And when you first started out at 25 and you're 31 now, what was it like?
23. Bought my first rental at 23.
So 23 to 31 now, what was it like to scale? Like, how did you even scale to where you're at now, like team wise?
Team wise, I was fortunate enough to, I say this a lot. Like I'm an Army brat, but I say that my parents raised me to believe that I could be anything I wanted to be except a millionaire. And it's not because they didn't know. It was just so far out of their reality, right? Like that they didn't even know that was something they could instill in me. So I had this. I was born with this, amazing mother who just made me believe I was a superstar, right? And I believed her, and so I went about this, and I wanted to build a business with my team, my friends and family, and they have all those things, like don't work with your friends, don't work with your family, and a lot of the times that's true, and it's caused a lot of stress. But I also realized I could trust them, and I wouldn't want to do it any other way. Like, why wouldn't I want to, hang out with my friends or my family while I'm working? Like, nobody else gets to do that. That sounds so cool. So my mom and dad, they had their own jobs, so they really couldn't help. It was more of them just being supportive, and they were hard workers. So if, I needed some help clearing out a project or something, they were always willing to do that, or my mom would help with some interior design. But my first encounter with a business partner that's still on my team, Shannon, he's the one I co-own my construction company with. For the first 2 to 3 years, he was just a sub. I was paying him out of pocket. And I just realized there had to be a better way. He was so talented, and I never wanted to lose him. I was like, dude, let's figure out how to do this together, man. Like, I'll bring you in, I can teach you, I'll get you some rentals, whatever it is. But I want to do this business together. I'll have my, young pro real estate entity. And then we started Peak Performance Construction. So I buy real estate here and then hire out it with the construction company. And we've had different people fluctuate through the construction company. It's a high turnover rate, and in my whole scheme of things, I think I've had 2 friends that, I was pretty cool with that I ended up firing, and those relationships have sadly dissolved. But it's part of the game, and the ones that stay, and those true ones, like I'm sure you've gotten some blowups with your dad. It's a beautiful chaos. That's probably the best way I can describe it, because everybody truly wants us all to be successful, but not everybody has put in the same amount of time studying this game, and that's kind of where my flaws came in, and my blow-ups is that I'm not going to take advice on how to fly a plane from someone who's only ever driven a car. So if you haven't studied this game like I have, don't try and come in here and I've calloused my mind in a certain way. You're not going to tell me how to operate a real estate business because you've never operated a real estate business.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about? So
It's
what's
like
your thoughts with working with your
going
friends and family, man?
yeah, no, it's like going to the gym, man, and having your coach be someone who's out of shape and fat, and you're listening to that person. It's like, why would I listen to you? Like a lot of coaches out there too now. But I know I like what you said, man. Like you build your business to be people you want to spend time with your friends and family. Why wouldn't you want to? And look, if you look at a lot of the company cultures, they want to build a business where it's like a family. They say like a family, but why not just actually have your family?
Yeah,
Right. You can trust them. As long as you have a good relationship, you can trust them. Because even like what I was telling you earlier, my dad's my business partner, and him and I have very different skill sets too. That's why it works too. We did the predictive index test by Ryan Panetta, and he's an analyst, and I'm a strategist. And it changes over time. Because I remember when I was with my business partner before, I was a persuader, which is more when I was in the sales role. But now as an owner doing the strategy and saying, hey, where are we going to get? How do we get there? What did the results look like? What are the KPIs? You change, you grow. So it was really interesting seeing that. My dad's really an analyzer. He's what are the numbers? So he does all of our bookkeeping, accounting, taxes, payroll, all that side of the house, the dispo stuff, because he has a background in sales. He works in pharmaceuticals. So he has years of high ticket sales. So he works with the actual investors, and I like to work with the homeowners, so acquisition side right now. But I like what you said there, like family, you can trust them, and even friends you've had to fire before. Like if you could share a little bit about that, if you don't mind sharing that, what happened and like what was it like firing your friends? Because I think it's already hard working with family and friends, but I think it's even harder with friends because sometimes the lines get grayed. But at least with family, they're still family at the end of the day, and that whatever happens, you're still gonna be family.
I wish I could sit here and say that I was perfect and that it was the reason they got fired was all on them, but that's just simply not the truth. I'm growing and I make mistakes and I have a short temper and I am not organized, and the list can go on and on about the things that I struggle with. And so I don't want to talk bad about anything, but I think that what I can say is that the communication is key, especially when your feelings and emotions are involved. And sadly, I am a lover. I am ride or die. So like, I'm the type of friend, I don't care. I will double text, triple text. Like my homies, like if I haven't heard from them, dude, I will call you so many times. Like I love you. Life is busy, bro. That there's that meme that's like, stop reaching out to people and see how many friends you have. I think that is the dumbest meme I have ever seen. Like, why would I want to stop reaching out to people I care about? Everybody's life's busy, and it takes turns. Like they do the same thing when I get work, so it's. But what I will say is that is to keep your cool, right? Like me, blowing up in the short times that I have, whether it, been with family and the disagreements that we've had about how the business should be operated, or with my employees or people that I work with, it's just weak, dude. It just shows lack of control, and like you grow up kind of taught. And if I got bullied a lot because I was small, and I couldn't really verbally defend myself. And then I as I got older, I realized, I was witty and I could speak very fast now, and I had more confidence, and I wrestled, so I was more physically confident. But the fact of the matter is there's nothing admirable about losing your temper and yelling at people that believe in you and support you. And that's just something that, from being an Army brat, I was born into kind of more of a yelling family. My mother was never like that, but my dad is a real one. So,
he was the Army guy, right?
Yeah, he's special forces. So
really, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So infantry, like it's about that life. So I've just, he's gotten a lot better, after going to war a couple times and seeing some of the stuff he has. I remember when he got back from war the last time, he was just so calm. And I was like, this is not the dad I know. And before my grandpa passed, he had told me, he says, when you go to war and you see things that when you come back to civilian life, you realize how little some of these problems really are in the grand scheme of things. Which helps you be able to control that. And I think that's kind of the stage that I'm in, is being aware that I have a temper, and what shows real power is not being able to show everybody what that temper looks like. It's being able to keep it on a leash and really just honing that in until it's the only thing that is the last hope. And at very, very few occasions do those demons need to come out. And so, yeah, I'm chilling. Trying to be more of the Spider-Man versus Venom, you know what I'm
I like
saying?
that.
Spider-Man's got to take over more, but Venom's still in here, boy.
I like that. And I actually remember seeing a story about like it was when I was going through my red pill phase, but after my breakup. Too. I actually want to talk about that a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Being able to be someone that you can execute, you can be like someone that could kill, for example, but you hone that inner beast. You don't let it out all the time. You stay cool under pressure. You need to be able to be cool, but you also have to be able to have that side of you come out if you need to. That's where the balance of things comes into. And like, if we could talk a little bit about your breakup, because you said that was when you made your 100K on your deal. And I know when I went through that phase, it was like a heartbreak. It helped me level up and really learn your worth and really stay focused. How did it affect you after like you closed that 100K deal and then you were going through that break at the same time? That must have took discipline to not like you said, you had to make a big boy decision, not ball out and spend it. You actually reinvested it. Like, what was that like for you at that time? And how did you change?
Yeah, man. So the breakup had already happened, but it was a very, as far as clean cut goes, it was clean cut for her. It was not clean cut for me. I was not okay. Yeah, dude, I experienced some darkness that I'd never really gone through before. But I think that because of how it happened and the whole situation and some of the things that she said, it still sticks in my head. Like, I know you're going to make it. I just don't know when. It's like I used that fuel of the person that I thought I was supposed to be with and not believing with me. And I used that to create like this monster of like, whatever, fuck you, I'm gonna go prove everybody wrong. All these middle school and high school teachers and like all my friends that didn't believe me when I was like, don't believe me, just watch.
Yep.
Thing. So but it got lonely, and I got lost in the game, and I started not being as intentional with other relationships and family and friends. And even though I think it's really powerful, that the problem is that kind of fuel is so much more flammable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to prove people wrong is such a flammable fuel versus trying to prove people right. I should never have. If I could go back, I shouldn't have been mad. Did it help and take me to levels? Yes, right. But maybe I should have just been like, thank gosh I have a mom that still believes in me, or thank gosh I still have some real estate buddies that are here for me, or whatever it is. But to talk about that red pill thing, like it's Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson said, it's far better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
I say that all the time too.
I was definitely sharpening my axe and sword and shit at the real estate game after the breakup. But I'm chilled out, I'm cooling.
It's like a rocket, dude. It's like you said, it's very flammable. It's flammable, but it's short term. It's not a good long term motivating factor. But it did help you level up. It's the same with me. That I resonate with that. But long term, when you finally break through those barriers, what is it that now motivates you and keeps you moving forward? Especially what I would say is probably it's your team and your family, because now they're all depending on you, right?
Yeah. I like that you said like it's short term. It is not sustainable, because then you just bring sustainability means to last, right? So to use that dark fuel means you're bringing it with you throughout your whole life. Like, I don't want to do that. I like being happy and giddy. Like, I like that you say that my energy, you like that. So it's contagious. And I appreciate that, man. That's the kind of energy I want to give off. So it's just not sustainable. The reasoning now, I'm a single dad. I have an 8-year-old son named Thaddeus. He was born into this game as well. But outside of retiring my mom and just providing him a different life, not that I didn't have a great life growing up. My parents were awesome, but just understanding life differently. and then traveling. Like I love to disappear, man, and that's why I really do think I'm going to come see you and extend. If that offer's on the table, we can go
It
off
is on
camera.
the
You
table, bro.
don't have
It
a
is.
camera or anything. But
It's actually a perfect transition. I wanted to ask you about that. You're 30 countries in 30 years. Like, what is your favorite destination been?
okay, so we'll go scenery, we'll go food, and we'll go nightlife. All right. So scenery, Croatia.
Where in
I,
Croatia?
I did Dubrovnik and Split.
Okay, yeah, I like Dubrovnik, Split, Zagreb too. I love
I
Croatia.
didn't do I didn't do
You gotta
Zagreb.
go
Wait,
there.
is that Zager?
Yeah, Zagreb, Z-A-G.
Yeah. Okay, I did go there.
Okay, Split's cool too.
Uh,
That's that little artificial party island area.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It was wild, bro.
That's the Dubrovnik, the Game of Thrones vibes out there too.
Yep. And then food. Malaysia had the best. Like, there's this one meal that I ate 3 times, like every meal, like back to back. Like, I got it. I was like, I wanted again before I left. Malaysia had amazing food because to polish off how I got to those 30 countries. I ended up going through some family trauma and ended up just kind of picking up and disappearing for 10 weeks. And I backpacked through Southeast Asia and I hit, I think it was 7 countries, which got me to my 30. And Malaysia was country number 26. So I had like Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, and Taiwan after that. But yeah, dude. So then nightlife, Amsterdam is pretty crazy.
If you like Amsterdam, you got to come to Prague. Prague is known for their nightlife out here too.
Really? Okay, dude.
It's actually perfect that we're talking about this, is because we're getting a little bit close to the end. So I know when you're coming out. You're coming out to Switzerland next week, right? Or this
Yeah.
week?
So February 5th, we fly into Milan. We'll spend 2 days in Milan, and then my business partner and buddy Sam, he has a condo, or his dad has a condo in Champre, Switzerland. And so we're gonna do a boys trip snowboarding there. And then now I think I might have to just extend my trip.
We'll do a
and fly to
podcast part
Prague,
2.
yeah.
Podcast part 2, man. Talk more. But no, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. Like I think for me too, that's why I like the virtual wholesaling, is because I love traveling. And for me, especially when I was in the military, we'd work a lot. It was like 14-hour shifts, but then every weekend we'd go somewhere new, we'd travel. You like literally unplug. And I felt so grounded and at peace, because like when you're in the same routine every day doing the real estate, the grind, it's good. But like when you do it too long, you burn yourself out. And for me, I found traveling is a way to really unplug, and you feel better and you look forward to things. So now we book our trips coming up, and we look forward to, like, for example, in March, for my birthday, we're going to Miami. And my parents are going to be out there too. We're going to go on a cruise to the Bahamas. And then later this year, we don't know where else we're going to go. But I've been overseas for so long, dude, over 30 countries, but I haven't been to Asia yet. So Japan's definitely on my list too, man.
That's awesome, dude. I think that's so cool, like that you make, traveling a priority as well, because like I have to agree, it is so easy to get, burnt out. And if you don't protect it, if you realize you get burnt out, if you don't instantly go refuel, I think that's probably why, I'm still in love with this game, is because I have been fortunate enough to have the ability to refuel when I identify, like, dude, you keep putting in 12-hour days for weeks on weeks on weeks. Yeah, you need to disappear for a week or two. Mm-hmm. Regenerate, get your mind right, and then come back to the game that you love. And I think people need to be better at doing that for themselves. It's so healthy and reviving.
Definitely. Would you classify yourself as more, I don't like to label it, but more so, would you say you're more of an introvert or an extrovert? Because I found too, like, we're very introverts. They need that time to really unplug and recharge, be away from people. And but being introverted, but extroverted around the right people that you vibe with, like us right now, we're very extroverted. But normally, like, I like to be on my own, doing my business, doing whatever. I don't like to be around people all the time. What would you say you're more?
I do definitely like to be like doing my own thing in sense of business, but I prefer to have people around. I think because being a military brat and moving so much, I never wanted to be that like weird new kid, new to the school. So like, I always desired to have friends, and because of how much we moved, it's like, well, I don't, and social media wasn't as big back then, so It's not like I could just have that. So I think that I was like almost forced into growing up to being an extrovert. And now that I'm an adult, I really appreciate it because I can get, dropped into a real estate conference in Vegas and not know anybody and get invited on a podcast. You know what I'm saying? Or I can, go to a wedding and not be worried about not knowing anybody and dance and do my thing. So I'm really only truly an introvert, like when I'm in a dark spot or in the sauna. I do not talk when I'm in the sauna. Put my headphones in and leave me alone. It's like my only time I'm actually like, okay, yeah, I will be here alone. But most of the other time I like to be with my people.
Okay, that's awesome. And don't worry about like at the saunas here. You definitely want to be alone because people here at the saunas are completely naked, man. I'm like,
yeah.
Definitely a different vibe out here, but we are approaching the end, man. I can't wait to meet you out here in Prague, bro. We'll definitely have to continue this podcast talk, man. Thank you so much for being on this episode, this show, man. Is there anything or any tip of advice you want to give for any newbie flippers or maybe someone that wants to get into flipping, how they can get started or if they can connect with you?
Definitely follow me, follow John. I'd say vocabulary. If you're trying to get in, don't just dive in. Like, get your vocabulary so that you can learn, what cash on cash means or what your investors are. So whether it's YouTubing for beginners, Rich Dad, Poor Dad doesn't teach you about real estate investing. It teaches you why it's so important. So get yourself a book that is dry, it's going to be boring, but it's going to be factual, to really help you educate and get that vocabulary that you're going to need to be able to be successful when you do. And then when you do not get analysis paralysis. You can only analyze so much. Pull the trigger, make your mistake, pay for it, move on to the next one.
Learn and execute. I like that, man.
I appreciate this opportunity, man. Thank you so much, John.
What's your Instagram handle people can follow you at as well?
Ethan Montang, just my name. I'm sure he'll have it in the post. So that's it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Check me out.
I will. Thank you so much, Ethan. I can't wait to see you next week, bro. We'll do our second podcast. And for those of you guys that really enjoyed this episode, send this video to someone who actually wants to get into real estate, learn about investing, and write down below what was your favorite part and what was one thing you learned. So thank you so much, Ethan. I'll see you next week, bro.
I appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
Take care, bro.